Yeah, one doesn't need to sweat expanding the circle of competence. So I think when we are young and start out, there are relatively few things we understand. We might understand mostly brands and companies that we are consumers of. Those would probably be the most apparent and most easy to get our arms around because we've got kind of experience with them. um, More other businesses which are not consumer businesses might be more difficult, but over time it is natural, if you are reading and thinking a lot, that basically the circle is going to expand. One doesn't need to focus on expanding the circle. It'll happen organically. And but one needs to be very careful that when one is looking at something which is outside your circle, that you're very intellectually honest and taking a pass. And many times the mistake I've made is I thought I knew something and I didn't. And so uh, that may not work out so well.
Guy, how has this developed for you? What's your take on your circle of competence and the development of this?
In terms of my circle of competence, well, first of all, I think that from your perspective, Julius, or from the perspective of a student, there's this question if you start approaching investing, which goes like, why the hell am I not Warren Buffett? Why am I not a genius at figuring out my circle of competence? And and I can spend time around somebody like Mohnish Pabrai saying, why the hell are you not Mohnish Pabrai? And sorry, just rewinding to another part of the conversation. For me, just remember that when Mohnish and I teamed up to bid on the launch, I'd met Mohnish twice. Before the launch happened, I actually flew out. No, I was on my way to Australia, and I specifically made a stop in Irvine because I thought I better get to know this guy a little bit better before the launch happens. For me, an enormous benefit of the launch was just this front row seat with Mohnish, and he has impregnated my thinking in so many ways. And in terms of how to live my life and how to run a business, I just want to give you one thing that kind of comes across in this conversation. Mohnish is completely relaxed. Why is he completely relaxed? Is because he is 100% truthful with the world. So he's not worried about how the conversation is going to unfold or what's going to happen. He doesn't even care he doesn't know what's going to happen, but it's okay because he's completely aligned with the reality of the world. He's not concerned with an external view of how people see him and how he himself feels about how he ought to be viewed. That takes away so much stress and tension, which just comes across in the conversation. When I met Mohnish, who I presented to the world and who I was inside was so far apart, and I got into knots. Just, I'd call Mohnish up every 5 minutes saying, this friend wants to share the cost of the lunch with us. I'm not sure. Do you think we should get together and ask questions? We need to prepare the questions that we ask Warren. We need to have talked about it beforehand. He's like, guys, stop it. It's going to be just fine. Just leave it alone. So that's just something that is interesting for me, that the asymmetry for me, the upside for me, which was in a certain way, if you really genuinely, if you said, would I like to have met Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger, or would I like to have met Mohnish Pabrai, they would have been in a certain way wasted on me. All the learning that I've had through Mohnish has been better for me than if I would have just met Warren and Charlie once, for example. So when it comes to circle of competence, the real question is not why am I not Warren Buffett and figuring this out so well, is just how do I figure out where I am in this moment, and how do I be brutally honest with myself about what I actually can know and do know and what I don't know, and not worry so much about where Mohnish's circle of competence is or where Charlie Munger's circle of competence is. I don't know if that helps you. And I think that, in my case, which has come out many times before, although I have to say, I'm not in Turkey for all sorts of reasons. We can get into it, but I have made investments in the Philippines where people tried to, which were successful. So, but in general, I'm, we joke about it. I'm willing to do sports that I could get myself killed in, like cycling and various sports like that. But I'm very, very scared around losses of money. And Mohnish is like very, very conservative when it comes to his physical, because that's actually more important than whether or not you've lost a little bit of money one year. But and that's also fine. So I think that the way I would define when I'm going through the world trying to figure out my circle of competence, I'm far more conservative, and I like to hang out around these, strong brands, for example. Whereas Mohnish, with his very unusual way of seeing things, will see something that is actually, he sees that it's within his circle of competence because he sees the whole world, including his friend Guy, just doesn't get it. And maybe the 8th time that I've been through it with him, I start understanding the way he's arrayed the facts. And it's like, actually, that makes a lot of sense. So, maybe that then the situation comes into my circle of competence because I've learned his thinking. But my point to you is, when you ask that question and when you ask yourselves, the group who are watching this, is this within my circle of competence? Don't have a voice that's sitting there saying, you idiot, you're not Warren Buffett, you're not Charlie Munger, you don't have the insights that Mohnish Pabrai has. That's the least important thing. I'll stop there. I don't know if that's helpful. I hope it is. Back to you, Julius.